to have Greg Downing come up and share more about a new product that we're just starting to work with. I've known Greg for several years and excited to have him here with us. I was able to twist his arm at the last minute to come, so we're glad to have you here, Greg, and look forward to what you have to say.
Thanks, Ken. Can you hear me?
You can right up.
Okay. In fact, you didn't have to twist my arm. It wasn't planned, and I don't have anything digital to show you, so we're not going to have any technological problems here. One of the things that I'd like to say as a new guy here on the show, Michigan oats, it would be really good for your Michigan oats or anybody's oats in Ohio too, Daniel, to use some silicon. Why do I say that? Well, that's my topic. And it's just now being introduced. We haven't used it here at Agri Energy, but back to Mike Smith's last picture there of that really poor looking ear of corn, that was Star Spot. And here in Illinois, another company's been using the silicon foliar. That's how we use it, by the way, for tar spot specifically, but not by itself. It always goes in a tank with micronutrients or, on our conventional ground as a fungicide combination, but it's never by itself. So I know that I'm really at the end of the day, and the last thing you want is another product and more information. But and after all, silicon is nothing new, right? It's the second largest element of the earth. It's, as they say, ubiquitous. It's all around us. So why do I care? There's only one way the plant uses it, and that's silicic acid. And it goes right into the plant. When we're doing this foliar, the product that I represent from the Canadians that got this probably about 15 years ago. It's been tested and tried and used all over the world, but it's just now new to us in the U.S. They only use just a little few ounces of this silicic acid. What makes it so interesting is that for me, I'm an agronomist in central Indiana, but as I told Gary, now I'm trying to get used to the fact that no, I'm a peddler. I'm talking about a product, and but I've always been trying to solve problems in the soil, mostly from a organic standpoint. I've been an organic grower myself for a few years in East Central Indiana, where I was raised, Bridge City, and that taught me a lot. But using all the fulvics and the humics and I did use molasses and chicken litter and all these things. Nobody's ever talked about silicon. So why am I here today? Because in 2019, somebody called me and asked me what I knew, and I couldn't say much. So I got the book called Silicon Solutions, and I found out these Dutch up there in about 2006 in Holland realized there's so much here that we have been overlooking in what silicon does in the plant that they figured out how to get the silicic acid plant-based as a product. And so when I called the fellows in Canada, they asked questions. It turns out that they were part of this Silicon Solutions book that started clear back in 2006. So here we are in 2024, and we're still hearing about it. I don't know, how many times have you seen today we've actually shown soil tests or even mentioned silicon? Isn't that interesting? The universities aren't still talking about it here much, and if they do, it's usually positive from the standpoint of a silicate, potassium silicate, a calcium silicate, magnesium silicate, all wonderful. Those are the products that we're going to use in the soil, again, bring up that silicon level, because what's happened over time is that we've we've completely ignored the fact that it takes silicon, first of all, to build a plant. It's like 2 floors in our buildings. And once it goes in the plant, it only goes one way, and that's up, and it gets fixed as a structural cell wall building material that doesn't move. We, interestingly enough, we can't overdo it, or we do spend more money by over-applying, but we cannot toxify the plant. It finds a place to park it, and that's where it is. So consequently, we like to do it, as everybody said today, early, and certainly at that flag leaf time. And so that would apply to the oats. And once I do that, what it's done to the plant is it's triggered within it not only enzymes, but genes, and et cetera, that make what we've been talking about today a more balanced nutrient flow in the plant. How that works is that's God's design, along with calcium and boron. The three of them together are actually controlling everything going on in the plant. So it's very, very, you don't have to take my word for it. Get on the internet and just Google silicic acid or silicon in plants, and you'll see that there's so much data out there that's been going on for so long, and it's always consistent. We raise all these other nutrients, including nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, because they're all macronutrients, just like silicon is. Silicon is not registered, it's not classified, and nobody in our country is going to talk about it as being an essential nutrient, but you can't have cells without it, you can't have life without it. Even the single cell amoebas and the bacteria have to have silicon. And so we've taken that silicon pool removed it from our soils because we've removed so much plant material over time, and it hasn't been replaced. And therefore we don't have microbes to actually convert it to silicic acid. By the way, that's S-I-L-I-C-I-C. S-I-L-I-C-I-C. Some people get that confused with salicylic acid. Okay, and again, aspirin, spiritual. But at this point, in 2024, last year, all the universities and statewide chemists, state chemists, and everybody in the plant food industry in the United States argued and been battling this for years. Finally, in 24, said that silicon is now a beneficial nutrient, It's a very, very much a biostimulant, and it's really more than a beneficial, it's essential, but it'll be a long time before we get there. So my problem, when I started this 5 years ago, putting it out there, tested it, was trying to figure out just what kind of response we get. And as you know, there's several in the room today that have used it. Maybe one of them's given me any data back. And that's the way it goes. And if they did, it's still going to be in a tank mix in combination with other things. So I still don't know what that one thing did, right? That all changed here in 22. And I don't know if we got enough light here. You can't see it. But I drug this pop-up display up here because the company, Devia, decided to spend some well-spent money. It took a lot of money in 22 to do a potato study. Because why? Because the potato's pretty common crop. They've already got a lot of data in Canada. They got data in, I don't know, someplace over in Europe. And they said, well, we'd like for you to do this in Michigan and take 3 varieties. So what you're looking at here on the left, you guys can see it, is 2022. Over here is 2023. But right now, just ignore the whole bottom. It's too much data. But if you can, from where you're sitting, just see that, you got on this side's the control. So this was just a potato program without any foliar. This was the same potato program, but now putting silicon on. And what we did was what we tried to figure out was what rates worked well for potatoes. So the bottom line was 6.5 ounces, okay, for the season. Well, that's not true. They did 2 applications, 6.5 ounces. And it didn't matter what variety, the response was always the same. So the blue bars are saying this is total crop. The green bars are saying this is the grade A #1 potatoes that they paid the most. So no matter which variety we talk about, the response was the same. And again, the second year in 2023, 2 years back to back. So finally, I get to see what this one product does by itself. Pretty big on potatoes. But again, it's the same thing you'll find in tomatoes and grapes and blueberries and strawberries and pumpkins and anything you grow. And what it's doing is it gets in the plant and it fixes itself and it starts to do all this modulation of nutrients. So I might be a little bit shy right now in my nitrogen flow, or the phosphorus is tied up, but it's somehow it's figuring that out. That's all I can say. So we get a homeostasis at that point, and we're not stressing out. And when we get heat, we somehow seem to modulate that. When we get too cold weather, we've got a little bit of an antifreeze effect starting to take place. When we get too wet in the field, and we get into that anaerobic condition, you know, we're not stressed out there. It's almost like, I sound like a salesman, right? It's a magic thing. And but it's the way it works. God designed it. All you gotta do is read the data. All you gotta do is use it. It doesn't take much, but when it comes back to a tar spot, and we get it early in the season, you'll see it. You'll see the treated, not treated, both, because those spots might be on the leaf, but they don't go anywhere. They don't start to deteriorate the leaf surface. So when it comes to the nutritional part of silica's action in the plant, it's balancing the nutrition. At the same time, it's holding on to what moisture is able to come out of the roots. And when we go dry, we're no longer trying to suck that out, because again, back to the potassium discussion in stomata in the leaves, you got to remember that's the stomata is made of cells. And we had silicon available, so now we have a very flexible stomata, so we're even controlling that water respiration, like Mike talked about earlier, even more efficiently. That's what I like to say. So, what have I left out? What does it do? Oh, it does make bigger fruit. I think, so if and I'm going to have bigger grain in wheat or oats, we should get more weight in the kernel. So, given we can't control these environmental conditions, I don't know, Kenneth, you're in the back of the room. What else can I say?
Bigger stem.
Bigger stem, yeah, the obvious. Well, again, that's true, and most people have been doing that for a long time. So again, lodging is not an issue. Standability is there. We don't have to. We actually see the bigger stem. Even you can measure it. And some of these other countries and universities have been doing that. They measure things that you and I don't think about and do it in units we don't really understand. But that's always a characteristic. And I'd say again, probably a bigger leaf. When we have a larger leaf surface and we have more efficient use of the minerals available to us, then we should have a larger leaf that's not getting so much disease infection and therefore more photosynthesis. So, that's my introduction, just to not ramble on and give you too much, but I'll ask if you got any questions or anybody that's used it. You got any comments, observations?
And there is information on the table over here.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, thanks, Gary. That this whole potato study that went on for 2 years was written up in, I know it's not corn or successful farming, but it's Potato Today. And I printed that off for you, so it kind of explains some of that. Please pick up a copy. The one thing that I will say in slowing down here is, there are a lot of silicates, as I said, which could be good, but it's how easy is it for you to use, and then the cost, of course. When it comes to silicic acid, there's probably only maybe 4 or 5 on the market, but you'll find that when you try to put them with something, the stability, to gel up, get pretty icky. They don't act nice, and they're not going to go out and sprayer nice. So what makes this really unique is that high pH of about a 12.9. So we can just mix it about anything. And again, it's been on the shelf. I know some's been stored for 10 years and then tested to see if it's efficacy still right up there at parts per million that we say it is. That it was actually manufactured at. So those are qualities I think that you do need to bear in mind. So storability, mixability, cost. I didn't say the cost. I was waiting for your gas. It's the same price as last year.
Yeah, we do have pricing from last year, so.
Yeah, and so you'll have to talk to Gary and Ken. I'll let you talk price. But it's very economical. And I'm not just a salesman saying that. Okay. With that, any questions? Well, I will say this, and then I'll shut up. If you had silicon there, you can reduce those other inputs, those other micronutrients. Okay, to some degree. And that's something that we kind of need to, experiment with. And again, hybrid, variety, is going to be huge. Their genetics is going to be huge, how it acts and works with the silicon. So, there's no general rule. That's the reason why we did 3 varieties here. Same thing will be true in apples, grapes, and all of our grains. So thank you very much for the opportunity.